May not be time for chit chat in that song, but it's definitely time for chit chat right now. And you guys have already been chatting in the chat. And I agree. BPTN definitely needs to put out a mixtape for 2022 because that's where we're going into. So welcome everybody tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another Global Masterclass series. So exciting as the chat's already getting lit up. And you know, every single Thursday, we are here bringing you conversations from around the tech world. For those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Sarah Jones, and I am a corporate social media trainer and the founder of Socially Active Training. But I am right here in Toronto right now. I want to know where you're at. So get typing in the chat. Let me know where you're at. And because I want to know where everybody is. This is a tech conversation from around the world. So I'm seeing some locals, Toronto, Pickering. Hey, Pooja. Hey, guys, Mississauga, Halifax. All right. Now, Toronto, Dallas, Texas. Let's see, Montreal. Whoops. Greenville. Look at me making a mess in my studio. Nigeria, Columbus, Ohio, Calgary, Brampton, Baltimore, Chicago. That's what I'm talking about. This is a global conversation, and it is happening right here, right now, because tonight we are going to be discussing everything about artificial intelligence and data. It is forecasted that the annual growth for AI between 2020 and 2027 will be 33%. So in this powerful session, we will focus on determining if it is possible to extract the insights you need from your data. And what does being data-driven mean to your organization in terms of the data that you will focus on, measure, and live by? So these are very important questions, and our wonderful speakers tonight will be answering them for you. But before moving ahead, I want to thank our partner, Integrate.ai, for bringing yet another insightful conversation to the BPTN community. So thank you, Integrate.ai. We appreciate you. So we know there's no I in team, but there's definitely an I in AI. Yeah, your girl thinks she's funny, but we're going to talk about AI and you tonight. So what I want to know, I got a question for you, right? Because I'm nosy. I like to know who's all up in the chat, right? Does your role involve AI, data mining, or neither? So let us know, of course, in the chat. You can type in AI, you can type in data, or neither. So you know me, if I was just to jump in that chat right now, I'm a neither, kind of, sort of. There's some stuff I'm playing around with right now, but for now, let's see. Also, what I want you guys to do is drop in your LinkedIn URLs in the chat as well, because you are here to connect. Right. So I'm seeing, as I look in the conversation, so I'm seeing AI, neither, data mining, data, Jeffrey, Calvin's neither, Dickensi is neither, Victor, Josiah, neither. So we've got a lot, but you know what tonight is all about? It's about learning, because we talked about the stats. It's growing 33% in the next, 5 years or so. So let's keep it moving. But I got a second question for you. So what are you most interested in learning? There's a lot of people who are, and I'm seeing those LinkedIn links coming in there as well. Yes, machine learning, definitely, and computer vision. Oh, that's the conversation that's going to be happening sooner or later. But what are you most interested in learning in? AI or data? Say AI or data in the chat, or how about both? Let me know. For me, it's definitely both. So let me know in the chat. I see a lot of AI. I'm seeing a lot of links. So guys, get connecting, because this is an opportunity that you don't get all the time, but you definitely get here with BPTN. So both AI, some both. So we're seeing, we're seeing the whole gamut of everything, but this is what we're here to do. And we brought some amazing experts on for tonight. So you guys are definitely going to enjoy the conversation. So thank you guys for participating in my questions. I appreciate you. And we are going to go in great depth tonight to discuss everything, all things AI and data, to keep you well informed. So let me walk you through tonight's value-packed agenda. So let's take a look at it right now. All right, so as you can see, the networking engagement, that's all me. And I'm going to walk you through some housekeeping and fun. That's what we're getting into next. And of course, the leadership panel. And I got some holiday fun and giveaways. Yeah, I said it, giveaways. So definitely stay tuned for that. And of course, you know you come for the tunes too. Hashtag BPTN mixtape. How about it? But in the meantime, speaking of hashtags, you see our handle. We are BPTN. We are BPTN basically everywhere, but don't forget to use that hashtag. And BPTN, when you follow, tweet, and tag us, that's what we're all about. So you've got our socials right here. Definitely connect with us because we share all the deets of everything that's going on because it's not just the masterclasses. We have so much more. So you got to stay in touch. All right. So moving right along. For those of you who are brand new to BPTN, I want to see you hit us up with the number 1 in the chat, because I want to make sure that you get a warm welcome. Welcome to the conversation. But for my OGs, you know what I want you to do. Type OG in the chat. If this ain't your first rodeo, you know what to do. Type OG in the chat. So I see a lot of number 1s. I see an OG up in there too. So for you newbies, you fresh to BPTN, this is a great night to join us. I want to let you know how our platform works. You can use the chat. As you can see, it's fired now. I see all my OGs showing up. That's what it is. That's what it's about. I see you, Linda. All right. So definitely, on the same chat box, if you look up to the right, you'll see the question box. You can drop your questions in there, kind of separate it from the chat, because you can see this chat goes a mile a minute. As well, you can play around with the screen. You can enlarge your video. You can make it small. You can play around with all the icons at the bottom. And of course, don't worry, you can't break the internet. All you have to do is press that circular arrow button and it will restore everything back the way you found it. So have fun. Make sure you communicate in the comments, and you can move everything around. Of course, there's speaker bios, slides, everything, plus links to LinkedIn members, profiles, and so much more. So play around with what we've got going on. As well, not only is this a chance for you to get networking, this is also a chance for you to get found and get connected to the talent acquisition members at Integrate.ai. Their names are up on the screen for you. So make sure that you connect with them in the chat and then go find them on LinkedIn. Yes, I said so. You can tell them Cher sent you. Danielle and Kojo, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And like I said, make sure you're engaging with them because this is a wonderful opportunity to just get on their radar. All right. So I have a quick trivia question for you before we begin our conversation. So I want you to let me know the right answer. Let's have some fun, okay? Are you ready? All right. Currently, about what percentage of CEOs say that AI is the mainstream technology in their offices? Is it 56? Get voting, guys. Come on. Is it 79? Is it 86%? Or is it 91%? So that is the question. It's all about the answer. Submit your answers and let's see what we got going on. Guys, get in there. Let me see you. Or maybe I don't see the action happening. And I know you guys are super active. So maybe we're just having some issues tonight in the tallying up. So I'm going to wait just a few more seconds to see if I get an answer, to see what the average answer is, because I know I voted and I don't see any fun amazing streams going. So let me give you guys the answer. It's definitely not 56. It's definitely not 91. So is it 86 or is it 79%? The answer is 86%. So that's the answer. So they're talking about it. 86% of CEOs say that AI is a mainstream technology in their office in 2021. All right, that is huge. So thank you for participating in the trivia. I am looking forward to meeting all of our amazing panelists tonight because we have a power-packed panel here that will dig deep into AI and data trends, because that's what you guys are here for. All right, but in the meantime, before I introduce our panelists, I have a treat for you. Since this is our last masterclass before the holidays, let's have some fun, get into that holiday spirit. All right, so are y'all ready? Are you ready? Type a yes in the chat if you're ready. It's the holidays. So go put yes, that's right. Go put your Santa hat on and get ready to type your answer in the chat, because I have one question for you now and one after our panel. So there's two chances to win. right? And to get that swag, get that awesome stuff. So the first two people, this is all about how fast you can type. So you get thinking and you type. Look at all these people read. Look how fast you guys are ready for this. Okay. So here we go. This is the first question. Listen before you get your answer. All right. In the famous Christmas song, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, we all know it, right? What did the other reindeer not let Rudolph do because of his shiny red nose? So get your answer in the chat. I know some of you are thinking, you're probably singing, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose. Yeah, but can you know the answer? Anybody get the answer yet? The sleigh games. Let's see. Yes, correct answer is, let's see, let me see. Yep. The reindeer games. I saw it in there twice. So our admins, our community managers in the chat will find you and they will message you if you are the winner. They did not let Rudolph join any reindeer games. Oh, so mean. I'm sure you guys had to sing that. Were you guys like me? Did you have to sing it in your head? I don't know. Let me know. Say yes in the no or in the chat. Be in solidarity. Just say yes. All right. So thank you guys in the meantime for participating. We will continue this fun segment after the panel. But in the meantime, let's get into the panel for tonight. So let me tell you about who is moderating our panel tonight. It is hello, Oyemi. How are you?
I'm fine, Cher. Glad to be here.
I am glad to have you. We are excited to have you because for those of you who don't know Oyemi, he is the senior manager of master data at SoftChoice. He creates and leads a centralized master data management organization that enables sales and supply chain operations across North America. So this conversation is all you. We couldn't have a better moderator than you tonight. Well, definitely, I'm going to leave it in your hands. You enjoy yourself, enjoy this amazing panel, and I'll see everybody after the panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Cher, and good evening, everyone, and hope you're all doing well. I'm so excited to be here and to have this conversation with our standing panelists tonight. So let me introduce you to the four members of our panel. First up is Sam Bellamy. Sam is the founder and president of Bazooka Inc., which is a Montreal-based tech company that creates HR AI-powered tools to help organizations become more productive and inclusive. Besides being an entrepreneur, she's an educator and an inclusion and diversity advocate in data science. So welcome, Sam.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Next, I would like to invite Roshana Kumanfa. Roshan is the VP of Machine Learning Products at Integrate.ai. She's passionate about delivering real value through machine learning products, and she has also using AI in a wide variety of environments, from wearables to warehouse management to marketing. Good evening, Roshanak.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be chatting with you all tonight.
Same here. Next up is Allen Obayagbona. Allen is the manager of solutions architecture at AWS. He's a technology leader with expertise in designing, developing, and delivering large-scale technology solutions and products. How are you, Allen?
Hey, Oyemi. I'm glad to be here. Hey, everyone.
Glad to have you. And our fourth panelist is Andrea Fajardo. Andrea is the VP of Science at Integrate.ai. He's an expert in the field of machine learning and has a deep passion for helping solve complex business problems with technology. He's a constant learner who also loves to teach. Welcome, Andrea.
Thanks, Oyemi. Excited to be here. Looking forward to the chat we're about to have.
Great. And I can tell this is going to be a great conversation. So let's get started. And as a reminder for the audience tuning in, you can submit your questions for the panelists in the Q&A box, and we'll do what we can to get to them. So let's start slow. There are only about 2 weeks left in 2021, and this time of the year means different things to different people. For some, it's time to wind down, connect with family, catch up with friends, take part in the various festivities and family traditions. While for others, it's a time of increased activity to ramp up, finish the year strong on their various commitments. So we're going to go around, but let's start with you, Andre. What are you looking forward to for the rest of 2021?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to, the usual traditional things that we do as a family in the holiday season. which is typically not really out of the ordinary, but doesn't take away how special it is for me. Just getting together with family, having dinner, drinking some scotch with my dad, and then looking forward to starting new traditions with my own family. I've got two little boys, both in diapers right now, and we'll see what new traditions we come up with.
Amazing. Who wants to go next?
I can. For the holidays, we do a bunch of stuff in terms of gathering with my family and everything. But I would say that if you don't know, I'm of Asian descent. So on January 1st of each year, we celebrate the Asian Independence Day since 1804. And on this date, we became the first Black Republic in the world. And we celebrate by drinking a soup that slaves were not allowed to drink, but they had to prepare it for the French colonists. It's called the soup jumeau, and we're drinking all day to celebrate our victory. So that's usually what is very special for me during the holidays.
That's a touching story and such an impactful family tradition.
Yes.
Alan, how about you? I'm glad to hear that everyone has something to do. My holiday periods is the typical holiday. Well, not typical holiday for people, but what holiday should be for me, which is basically just resting. My years are usually always go, go, go. So when the holidays come, it's time to relax, actually relax. So that's what I'm looking forward to for sure.
Looking forward to that as well. Roshan?
Cool. I am of Iranian descent. We are celebrating the longest night of the year in next week. So I'm super excited to eating all the pomegranates that this country has to offer.
Okay, great. So moving on to our topic for today, there is a lot of talk about being data-driven. And a lot of organizations claim or aspire to be data-driven, but it can be quite obscure what that really means. So maybe let me start with you, Alan. What does it really mean for an organization to be truly data-driven?
Yeah, I would say that's a good question, because what data-driven is to most people is the people think of being data-driven when they think of business, but I personally look at data-driven both individually or as an organization as being part of the culture. So it starts all the way from how you interact with your everyday customers, how you're are you using metrics to basically make decisions in your organization. I know at work, for example, when I write something, I can't say, for example, Canada is using AI services very well or something like that. I have to actually put numbers behind it. And so that causes me to track certain metrics and certain data from the beginning. And I think when you have that culture within your organization, it plays into how you build products. It plays into how you determine how you relate with your customers, basically. If you're going to release a new product, you can then say, 80% respondents from this survey want this particular feature in your product, and then you can work that way, and that's what I think that being data-driven is.
That's amazing perspective. Anyone wants to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think Alan. Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, thank you. As a tech founder, I would say that I need to understand what my client wants to measure and what data they're trying to track and why. And for this, communication is key. And I would say for us to bring value to our clients is very important, because no value, no sales. And so what's important to them are important to us. I would say we need to understand the business model, understand where they're going with the information and why they need it. That's for us data driven, is just understanding the numbers or the insight that he's trying to get, basically.
Yeah, I totally agree with
Andre.
Thanks, Zoe. I mean, I totally agree with what Sam and Alan just mentioned. Definitely to me, what data-driven organization means is that you're using the data that is available to you. And by the way, there's like loads and loads and loads of data that are becoming more available to companies, across the globe, and that's not going to stop anytime soon or slow down anytime soon. And it's really about leveraging the data as best as possible to inform your decisions. Because at the end of the day, Sam and Alan both alluded to this. We've got objectives to hit, and to achieve these objectives, we've got to make decisions. So it's about collecting the right data versus using gut feel to make the best informed decisions.
Amazing. Now, AI is a hot topic and will continue to be so for years to come. And there is no shortage of technology solutions that claim to drive or implement AI. Now, even in cases where organizations have made investments in these solutions, delivering value and demonstrating value have been difficult. So my question is this, and I'll start with you, Roshan. How can organizations who wish to implement AI craft out the tangible use cases to focus on to deliver business value?
Yeah, I think that is a great question. I would start with AI is a way of unpacking your gut, right? Like you usually have a hypothesis around something should result into something else. So you form a hypothesis around, I think if I do X being anything, like let's say you're facing customers and you're like, I should start giving out incentives, right? Like you have a hypothesis, which is, if I do this, I'm going to drive some metric for my business. They're going to stay with me longer. They're going to purchase something more. And it is very fundamental to be very clear what you're using your data for and what you're looking at to say whether the thing you care about happened or not. You'd be surprised how many times the thing that feels very obvious is actually where a lot of people struggle with, because the terms I used are by their nature very vague, right? Like I started with like, if I give incentives, so what are incentives? In what way am I giving them? How am I measuring incentives? And then what am I driving? How would I measure that? Would I see that immediately? If something else is running in parallel, what would happen with that? And I feel like nailing down that hypothesis and knowing what you're going to be looking at is fundamental for everything subsequent. And based on our experience, that is actually one of the very hard portions of the process, which then hinders like actually actioning those, getting consensus from all the stakeholders on whether AI drove value that it was supposed to drive or not. So I would say there are a lot of pieces of the pipe that need to come together for AI to deliver value. And there are fundamental pieces that often get lost in the processes.
Now, the volume and the variety and velocity of data that organizations can stream and curate is constantly exploding. Andre, how can organizations hone in on the data that really matters to them?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. And Roshan just made a great point, which is essentially, alignment on the outset of what your, the business objectives or the business use case that you're trying to do. The first question really that you need to nail is, can I codify this business problem into a machine learning or AI system type of problem, right? And by asking that question and going through that process, you will figure out if there is a tight solution to the business problem that you're trying to solve. Once you've got that figured out, then the next question I think becomes, okay, what data sets can I use in order to build these AI systems? And the good thing about building data science solutions is that a lot of the stuff is intuitive, in the sense of like, okay, I want to figure out, for example, who might churn from my product. Okay, well, what data sets do you think you'll need to use? Well, you might want to look at the usage patterns of your consumers. and build features on top of that. But the point that I think should not be lost is that while data is very crucial, data has to be clean. There are so many things around the AI systems that need to be right. What I mean is that the environment needs to be right in order for you to actually fully leverage AI.
Amazing. So let's bring this down to the scope of the data professional. For the data engineer, for example, or the machine learning engineer, what are some of the techniques that can help them get to the data they need to generate the insights their customers are looking for? And that's an open question, so anyone can.
Yeah. In my position as a tech founder, I have a data scientist that works with me full time, so it's kind of a bit different. But I would say that when you first understand the problem trying to solve, and then you realize that you are not an expert in everything, and then you need to communicate with that person that's going to use the product to just see how they're going to use and for what and everything. This is where everything starts. And in my startup, even though we have data scientists full time, we do not hesitate to call on the experts in different fields to give us cues and help to define what we should use as data or research or mine. In the last 2 years, my team has been developing Integrate.ai. It's a software that helps companies become more inclusive by measuring impact of unconscious biases when selecting candidates. And for that, we're surrounded by experts in sociology of racism, in sociology in general, psychologists, human resources, advisors, labor, lawyers, activists in diversity and inclusion, university researchers. So we make sure that we have a diverse team that could help us make sure that we track the right data and we understand the scope of the problem. So I would say that for me, that's the main thing that's very important for a data scientist to identify the data that they're looking for. They need to understand the behind the scenes and make sure that they are well surrounded.
Thanks, Sam. Are there other techniques that others have found that are useful to data scientists to really narrow down to the data that they need for their projects or products or solutions?
So I can jump in there. I think if you listen to everyone talking, you would notice a theme where everyone's trying to walk backwards from a particular business use case. And I dare say, the data scientist or the data engineer who's working is not alone in the journey. The business folks have to be involved as well to determine where is the starting point of this. And then data scientists can then come from the other end to say, this is what we need to get to this end here. And the truth is, regardless, nothing is new under the sun, and every industry and every sort of business use case already has a list of algorithms and list of options for you to go take a look at other people's starting points, open source technologies, and how they've done certain things in the past. And then you can use that to then determine, the kind of data you need. And there are also, one other thing that I don't know if people know a lot, maybe the data scientists on the web chats we know, but there are open data platforms where you can go and see sample data. And that data also helps you, gives you an idea as well of what would be needed, what kind of features in the data would be needed for your particular algorithm and for you to actually train and have a model and go. And if you've worked with data in the past, what you will find is your first pass is never the end. You always have to do a lot of tuning, go to the beginning, change up your algorithm, change up your data again, clean up your data more, come back and go take another pass and continue that process. So yeah, it's in the end, working backwards from your business use case and being open to learning from what you're actually trying to solve is going to be very important.
I love that last
Sam,
point.
Let me No, go ahead, Andre.
I was just gonna say, I love that last point of Alan's work back plan. You've got your objective function that you want to optimize, and then you find the right tools and data sets to achieve that objective. The one thing I wanted to kind of say is a bit of a fork from what the other, Alan and Sam were talking about, but we have had experience in terms of using data to mine insights, right? Which is a little bit different from building models. And I think the typical approach that we've seen companies use is they'll find insights, and let me say that mining insights that are like going to change the way that a company behaves or changes like the way that you make recommendations, that golden nugget is a very hard thing to find. Sam was right that you need to surround your team with the right expertise, the right domain, different domains, etc. But like even with those folks in place, it's still quite challenging to find those insights. So what we've been trying to say, and I think this is really what the AI movement is all about, is getting to the spot of flipping the process of finding manual insights, like finding insights manually, and then trying to decide what is the right recommendation, like treatment decisions based on that manual golden nugget that you found, and flip it on its head, similar to what AlphaGo does. For those of you in the audience who are not too familiar with AlphaGo is an algorithm that learned how to play a game. And really all it was told was the rules of the game. And after some time, it learned how to beat the top experts in Go. And what did the Go experts do after the fact? They looked under the hood and said, okay, machine, AlphaGo, how did you do it? And therein lies how they were able to find these insights from this expert machine algorithm, and then they can now use this against other human players. So in similar fashion, we can set the objective function, make sure the environment is correct, get the right data, and then just watch the algorithm go. And then once it's succeeding, maybe optimizing conversion or churn, peek under the hood and be like, okay, algorithm, how did you do it? What were the features? What should I be looking at? And these insights now you could perhaps, transfer across the business.
That's an excellent addition. Thanks for that, Andre. Now, I was going to ask about geography and location. Do these things play a role on the outcomes and operations of machine learning model development? If so, what are the impacts?
I could give an example. For our software, Elise, when we tested our application, our software at the beginning, it was a beta version. We decided to use a free database that are available just to see how the algorithm was working. And the ones that we found were from China and France, right? So the data, unfortunately, it was not effective at all. Chinese and French CVs, because this is what we analyze, are very different for North America CVs. So the work culture is different. The information we found in the CVs were totally different. For example, it was difficult for us to know the gender of the candidate on the CV because we were not familiar with the names, the Chinese names. Another example I would give is that the French CV often have data that is considered confidential here in North America, such as date of birth, social security number, marital status, to just name a few, but they were all on the CV. So with all these differences in the French ones, it was the algorithm were just working better because we had access to more data of quality. It was easier for us to determine CVs who are from the diversity pool or not. But for the Chinese one, we can use it. The quality of the results were not there at all. So the location, the geographical location really had an impact on our beta testing. So we directly decided to go with real data and create partnerships with different universities and businesses that were open to use our platform when it's fully ready and use that data. And we also created different tools to just create data of quality for us to use. So I would say, yeah, it has a big impact and we should be careful. We learned.
Yeah, for me, just to build up on top of what you were saying, it really comes down to three main things. One is the thing to notice is most of these algorithms are heavily developed in English speaking countries. So you could get a fully ready like speech recognition algorithm and therefore build tools that are going to unlock people's lives in a substantial way for many English speaking languages. But as you look towards other countries that speak a different language, no such service exists. So I think like that's an interesting role geography plays. The other thing to build off what Sam was saying is like how people collect data in different places, which could lead to some, to me, very scary biases around like, oh, let's build an infrastructure deterioration algorithm across the country and like fix the places that are most in danger, like prioritize places that are in most danger. And then you realize, well, portion of the country is not even rich enough to have the sensors to collect the data that you need, and therefore they're going to naturally get excluded. So like those aspects of geography that connect to bias in like where the technology was advanced is actually, I think, a very interesting topic.
Yeah, I really want to jump in and just jump on what they said already. Just to give an extra example to what they've been talking about. As they were talking, I was thinking about when COVID hit, the collection of data was very swift in developed countries, right? You could see how many people were being affected, how many people were catching the cases, deaths that were coming out of that. I'm from Nigeria originally, and I looked at African countries and some other developing countries as well, and the data wasn't coming out as well as developed countries. And you can imagine if you were doing something that needs that kind of data to actually run, it's very likely that while your application or your models can run very well in developed countries, they might not run as well in developing countries. And the other thing I wanted to mention, in my role, I work with startups, in different locations that solve for different countries. And one thing that I find a lot is, depending on the industry, you might have data residency compliance requirements for a country. So, for example, especially in healthcare, if you're taking data from your customers, you have to keep that data in a data lake or something within Canada, for example. You can't do anything with that data in the US. And so that affects how, number one, how you deploy your applications within a particular country, how you train that, that model, and how you run your whole business in the end, right? So yeah, regional limitations come up a lot.
And definitely, Alan, that's a great last point. Sorry, just a quick quick shameless plug on Integrate.ai. Alan's point is a great one in terms of like the data not being able to move. And we believe that this is actually the future in terms of building models, data not being able to move into a central location before, you build a machine learning model or you do some data analysis. So what we've been focusing on, Ro could speak more to this, is building a platform that allows you to build models in a distributed fashion. In particular, federated learning.
Now, if this was easy, everyone would be doing it and successfully as well. So what are some of the limitations or challenges that we've seen in the industry that organizations face when they're developing their capability to mine insightful information or become more data-driven?
You want to jump first? I can start. I'm interested in all of this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You've started already.
Okay. So because we work with a lot of companies, what we find is we get a lot of surveys and we do a lot of experiments, and what we find is in the process of running through an AI/ML scenario, you go through data preparation, you go through the building of the algorithms, you go through training of the model, and you go through inference where you actually deploy to production. You find that 80% of the time spent in that whole process is in the data preparation, right? And when many people talk about AI/ML, they talk about the beautiful end of the whole process where you're making a query and you're getting information, but that whole data preparation, where you collect the raw data, where you transform the data, where you store the data and actually process everything, where you make sure that you're trying to avoid bias and checking all the way across, all of that can be really hard. If you're dealing with images, for example, and I saw that someone put computer vision in the chat, you would have to label that data, right? And if you're going to label thousands and thousands of images, of videos, you need people to do that, right? That's a lot of that's a lot. And one other thing that happens in that whole thing is, the more data you have, the more compute you need. The more, and for those who don't understand, is your data has to get trained and processed on a computer. Basically, you can run that on your laptop if you can, but assuming you're not going to use that laptop, just assume that you're not going to use that laptop ever again, because it's going to take all the power of your laptop, right? And so you need bigger machines, and that comes with some cost requirements, that comes with some limitations there, and not everybody has access to that, right? And what I do at work basically is working with our product teams to build solutions to some of these problems. And yeah, there are going to be limitations across the board, but we're working every day to, number one, create tools to actually help that whole process of labeling data, for example, creating the pipelines that actually allow you to go through the process, go back and refine the data and start again. All of those are really hard for data science teams, and I'm working with my team to kind of help fix that.
I love that. And I bucket that under what Andre was saying earlier as like the right environment. The thing that I really love, the challenge that I face every day that I really love is just even before that is getting like data science is just one part of a larger organization. And just getting everyone, all the stakeholders involved and just wrapping their head around this probabilistic world in the world where rule-based systems used to rule, and definitely what is an outcome of a system versus, well, this is going to be correct 90% of the time, and then in the remaining 10% there's like this likelihood of this thing happening, and everyone was like, whoa, no, you're telling me this is not working at 100%. Like, walk me through that. And just generally getting everyone up to speed of what is this system capable of? What are the truths about it? And just where should you be excited about it? Where should you not be excited about it? I find to be like one of the very interesting portions of the whole flow.
Yeah, definitely. Like that misalignment on the outset is very costly. Imagine, Alan was talking about the technical difficulties, and imagine like you're able to get the pipeline set up, find the right model, and then you have your beautiful model built, which Alan's correct. Building the model is a few lines of code sometimes, and it's really all about the data preparation that is the bulk of the work. But imagine you get that all done, you're super proud of it, and then your stakeholder looks at you and is like, what do I do with this? What were you trying to do? So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of the times companies are wanting to use AI because it's very popular, but are not aligned as to what AI can achieve. When you build a model, what are you using those predictions for? What decisions are you going to make? What objectives are you trying to drive? And how are you sure that you've got the right environment to drive those, use those machine learning outputs to drive those recommendations in a clean fashion?
Now we have an audience question, and it says, explain data mining using an example.
Who wants to take it?
I mean, I can, but I feel like I always start first.
I mean, I would say data mining as a whole is it's a pretty large spectrum. Like, what portion of data mining, like what does data mining mean to you? Maybe let's start with that assumption, Alan. Like, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So if you could just like clarify what data mining means to you before jumping to that answer.
So I can, yes, let me take a stab at that. So in simple terms, data mining is everything involved from taking raw data from the very raw form to knowledge, deriving knowledge from that data, right? As simple as that may sound, there are so many processes in between, right? And, first of all, it's taking that raw data, transforming the data, doing something with that data, and then finding patterns and whatnot from that data, and then using that to make a business decision, right? Getting insights to make a business decision. Obviously, in doing all of that, AI sits somewhere in there, right? And so a simple example that came to my mind was, imagine your business wants to figure out, let's say you're starting you want to sell laptops to people, for example, and you want to understand who your customers should be, and you have all this data that you are getting from different sources, and you have all this raw data sitting somewhere. You're trying to get to a position of, again, working backwards from the use case, which is, who should I really target? Who should my marketing target audience be? Right. And then you can create, using AML, you could create a decision tree and classify the audience, the prospective customers, and say, okay, these are male, female, within this particular age group of 18 to 25, whatever. And then you can take that data and pass it through the AML model and say, if they're 65 years and above, what are they doing right now? If they're working in a certain place, would they actually need a laptop? Based on your data, you can make an informed decision to say, probably these people wouldn't be buying a laptop. And you can say, if they're 18 to 25 and they're a student and they're studying a particular type of program, then you can, like that, form a decision tree and say, these kind of people would definitely want to buy a laptop. And then you can then target your audience and say, we want to target students between 18 to 25 years old who are, students in Canada, whatever, right? And then just like that, you've made a business decision from gathering raw data, right? And there are so many examples of this.
And in the end, it seems data mining is almost a misnomer, because no one is really mining data. We're mining insights, we're mining information, truth, knowledge that are actionable for the intended business purpose, right? Now, let me come to you, Sam. Now, we know how counterproductive and destructive bias can be in operationalized AI systems. So, and there is a lot of honest efforts that data practitioners put in, from the data validation and validation of the outcomes, and model validation, just to weed out some of these things. So, how does bias creep into the whole process of development?
I would say it's very difficult because algorithms are biased anyway, because we're human creating them. So we have our own culture, our own education, and this impacts how we build our models for sure. So in my business, we make sure that we're surrounded with people with different views on the problem. So that helps a lot. But also we have a specific metric that we look, and we try to see if there's some we try to discover hidden patterns in our models, and when we test it on the data, and see what's going on. And if we see a lot of time the same pattern comes, we sit down again and we have the discussion, and we have a meeting, and we brainstorm, and we look at it, and we try new stuff to make sure that biases don't get in the model. But it's a challenge. It has to be important, and something important in your organization, and you have to monitor that all the way through the development, and even the launch, and the test, and the validation, and stuff like that. But it's work itself. In a large business, there should be like someone specifically for that, just to make sure that all the products that goes out are biasless as much as possible. But to not have an algorithm or model that's not biased, I need to find one day, but I don't know it.
Yeah, this is a very important subject for sure. And I don't know if it's, at times when you get a poor model, we will oftentimes blame the model itself and try to figure out how to best modify the model. And this point was alluded to by Sam as well. I just maybe emphasizing it. It's really about the data sets that we build our models on. And the last topic that we were talking about it was, finding the right data, and sometimes these data can come baked in with human prejudices and things of that nature, and these will definitely creep into our models. The good thing is, while still challenging, is that there are measures that the community are coming up with to spot these issues. So in terms of fairness models, there's things called demographic parity, which looks to ensure the treatment recommendations that you get from a system are similar across a sensitive attribute. That's one definition of fairness. Another definition of fairness is that the model accuracies are similar across a sensitive attribute, right? And that's very difficult because your data might not be representative. You might only have a small amount of data across one, minority group, and therefore your model is not going to be very accurate. And that's not really an equal or equitable sort of thing to do. And so, we as a community and as we move forward with AI, what we need to do is get very creative in how we find and collect data sets to ensure that these biases don't creep in. And by the way, these biases can creep in not by accident. I say that because we, as a data scientist, you only have the features that are available to you. But you might not know that a feature or a data field that you're trying to use to predict a certain outcome might be a proxy to a very sensitive attribute such as race, right? And so we need to do a good job of collecting data better, but also understanding, the risks of proxies that we might not know about.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, I really like that.
Go on, Roshan.
No, sorry, I was just going to say that I think I hear the term bias in machine learning, bias in AI, and I think to myself that the data is a reflection of us as a society, right? It's a reflection of the decisions we've made in the past. And if it's not looking good, it's not an AI problem. It's a human problem. And the thing that I really like is something Andre and Sam both alluded to, is that you cannot unpack someone's brain and see why they made a decision that was unfair. But you do have the capability to unpack a model. And I actually think as we go more towards automation, we're on a better path to address these biases versus the AI being, well, it can be evil, but if we treat it right, I think we're in a better path to fix a lot of these issues.
Great point.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head by saying, there is, AI is basically a reflection of our society, and that is 100% true because computers by themselves don't have prejudice, right? And so it's what we feed them that they do. And I could talk more into the tools that Andrea already mentioned, or the scenarios, but I wanted to put out some examples. If you don't know, I was reading recently about things that some big companies have been making, and I'm really happy that in the last 2 years a lot has happened in the racial world, that has allowed people to understand the impact of certain things to certain racial communities. And I had this discussion earlier in the year with my wife about, if you actually Google professional hair, right, you see a certain type of hair, right? And that is not, it's not the computer trying to say, I don't like black people's hair, or I don't like this certain people's hair, right? It's just the data available to it and how the algorithms were made to run. And, so over time, things are changing. I think people are making changes now in society, but it means that, like Andre said, we have to be intentional in how we actually source that data, write our algorithms, run those models, and go through the whole process and make sure that we're fighting bias every step of the way.
Yeah, And I would add, in Quebec, there's a lot of information that we do not collect because our government or institution think that's racist to sometimes collect some type of data in terms of diversity. So we are very far in terms of serving properly different types of communities with the model that we're trying to build, because there's some data that just don't exist yet. So, we have to mine them and then collect them for a couple of months, years. Now the government in Canada is trying to do that, but it's pretty late. So there's probably a lot of products that are not targeted to the right for people, or excluding excluding other people, not because on purpose, but but because we don't know any better. So I guess it's our responsibility to make sure that we push our government and institutions to collect the data that we need and make sure we're able to create a more fair community in terms of a more fair world, I would guess.
Now, as many of the panelists have commented previously, it does take a village to deliver value using AI and machine learning effectively. So, Andrew, what would you say are the kinds of job roles or personas or the kinds of competencies that organizations need to have at the table to implement and deliver AI effectively?
Ooh, this is a great question, and I would say that the pattern that I've seen in terms of job descriptions across the board on data scientists is that it's a quite overloaded term. And to answer your question, you definitely need to have data engineers who know how to shape the data, to process the data, to QA the data. Perhaps in the near future, QAing data will involve checking for any sort of misrepresentations or biases before it even gets into the hands of a data scientist. So you need a data engineer. You need folks like data scientists or machine learning solutions builder who know how to take data and essentially what we're doing is we're taking the process in which humans mine data, that is looking for relationships with data, and passing this over to algorithms who can do this in an automated fashion and therefore can scale this at a higher degree. So that's what they're responsible for. Not to mention, the data scientists before building the model, you would do a little bit of exploratory type of work with the data, just do some sort of correlations charts, build out some visuals, and this will give you a hint as to what models you should build. And then, of course, you need some other engineers to help deploy, so MLOps, DevOps, to deploy that model into sort of a reliable, safe mechanism that can produce your outputs for AI systems. That's just on the technical front, and I'm sure the folks on the rest of the panel here can talk about the people that surround your technical team. They also need to have the same sort of AI maturity or AI mentality. If you've got stakeholders who are misaligned as to what AI can do, and that stakeholder or product person is a very powerful one, then you might not get a successful project up and running. But I'll leave it at that and let others contribute.
Does anyone want to add anything to that?
I think one of the important pieces to me is that when software started, it was in form of projects, right? And then it was a whole mess. If you read the history of software, it was like a nightmare how a software project would get delivered, the release pattern and all of that, until Agile came. And it gave roles essentially names so that you could point at people and say, you're responsible for this, you're responsible for that. The thing is that this is quite missing in the data science community right now. So we are at a phase of AI where things are mostly looking like projects and people are still trying to figure out how AI would fit into this. And the interesting challenge this opens up in my perspective is that you have like, I don't know if you've looked at job descriptions for a data scientist. It's like, you need to know like .NET, Java, and then full knowledge of Spark, and then TensorFlow, and then you look at it and you're like, wait, who is this person? This person cannot possibly exist. This is like 5 job descriptions under the same under the same posting. And I feel like we're living in a little bit of that. So we're at like the job roles that Andre named, like, are things that have meaning within IAI, and I'm hoping that one day it would get standardized so that we can point at people and say, this is the title and this is the competency. But I personally am not still seeing that broadly adopted across the industry. So
now, from your comments, I also see a lot of how to be a data scientist in 2 weeks kind of programs out there. Now, for the benefit of the audience and for those interested in starting their career in data science, what would you say are the foundational skills that are necessary? Like, how would you recommend them to start?
Okay, I can jump in.
Yeah.
Sure. So, I think definitely, as a data scientist, you've got to have a pretty strong foundation in like stats, math, and computer coding. And I'm not necessarily saying like a PhD or advanced degree or even a degree whatsoever. No matter what way you've got your strong foundation in these areas, more to you. But it's definitely relevant because essentially what you would be doing is you'd be working with data, and Ro kind of mentioned this probabilistic realm or world that you would be playing in. Essentially, being a data scientist, you're subscribing to this probabilistic world. And if you're subscribing to this probabilistic world, you got to play within the bounds. You got to know the rules. And this is what the math, stats, computer science programming gives you. And then after that, to be honest, it's, do a lot of projects. Experience with projects. I've seen in the comments somewhere, someone was asking about how they can make their GitHub look like very nice with all the projects they've done. Yes, do that. Make your projects front and center, because at Integrate, like, we don't really look at degrees per se, to be honest. Like, degrees definitely help you in terms of like expediting your learning of the core foundations, right? Otherwise, you might go in rabbit holes and you'll get lost. But it's really about, how passionate are you in like getting into the data? Do you get shivers when like, you've got a raw data file and you're trying to find a pattern to make a difference? Essentially, that's it. Like, the more you could do that through projects, the more attractive you'd be to companies.
And I hope everyone who's listening can actually hear the part about projects. If Andre didn't say it enough, I'm going to say it again. I think the age of your education determines your future is passing on. And, you could go for a 7-8 year degree in data science itself and still not be a good data scientist, basically, right? The only way you can really prove yourself is by the projects you actually build, right? Show those projects, like, focus on your projects, have working models, put your Jupyter notebooks, if you have any. If you don't know what that is, please Google. Put your Jupyter notebooks on GitHub, like, put everything, your projects online. And when you apply for jobs, these are things that people look at, and they can then determine how good you are, what you have actually been doing. And yeah, that's a good place to start. But I think Andre hit the nail on the head there.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground here, but before I let you go, I want to ask each of you, what is the one key thing you want the audience to take away from today's discussion? And maybe we can start with you, Sam.
Well, collaboration is key in everything you do. We see it. We are from different backgrounds, and we're still learning from each other. So, and even when we work in the field of AI or machine learning or anything, we work with other people. I would say collaboration is key, communication is key, understanding is key. So I would say that, yeah.
Who else wants to go next in terms of the main takeaway?
I can go next. So I've probably hit on this point more than a couple of times, but I think this is the most important takeaway, which is, AI is definitely very popular for right reasons. It's taking off. It's helping drive real value in businesses and therefore real life. But AI, it shouldn't be taken for granted. There are things that need to be done, mentalities that need to be changed in order to use AI to drive real value. So that environment that I spoke of, making sure that, Alan had mentioned this, of like making sure that the pipelines are clean and like the data source is true. All of this stuff is necessary, plus the alignment with stakeholders who need to understand what AI can and cannot do.
And for mine, I think everything everyone's saying, 100%. I'm going to add that regardless of whatever you're doing with AI, work backwards from your customer, work backwards from your business objective, because, people who are actually building AI solutions every day, how well you can best impact the world in general is by working backwards from the problems that exist and then solving those problems. If you understand your business case, you will understand what data you need, how you should collect that data, and what you should do throughout the whole machine learning or AI process. And so working backwards is important.
I think for me, it's actually very close to what Alan is saying, is to see beyond the how. Like people tend to speak in the language of how. Like go get me the insights about men between 12 and whatever, and to understand really what the other person at the other end is trying to achieve, why they're trying to achieve it, to instead give them a bigger, fuller view with AI versus just like giving them a faster horse. You have the capability to give them a car. And I think like that sometimes gets missed because of where AI lives right now in the pipeline of the works to be done.
Andrea Fajardo, Rushna Kumanfa, Sam Bellamy, Allen Obayagbona, thank you very much for lending your experience and perspectives to the conversation tonight. Although,
well, that was definitely okay. Back to me. See, this is the whole thing when it comes to live masterclasses. You got to be ready, got to be on the fly. But that was definitely an amazing discussion. So many brilliant points brought out. And I definitely hope that you guys had a lot of insights, a lot of takeaways, especially on what's coming up next. I love the conversation around GitHub and how you are branding yourself in yet another platform. So don't forget to drop your links down for LinkedIn and maybe your GitHub links too. Hey, why not? And there's definitely a lot of things happening in the world of AI and data. But before we wrap up tonight, just like I promised, we have yet one more holiday giveaway. So I am back with yet another question for you. So same rules as before. The first two individuals who get the correct answer win a prize. We love prizes, right? I love gifts. So it's kind of like a bit of both, right? So here we go. The Santa hat goes back on the head. And here is the trivia. You guys have to guess the Christmas movie from a one-sentence summary. And make sure you have the full, so not no halfies here, the full name of the movie title, okay? So here's the question. You guys ready? You got all chit-chatty. I see you guys starting to light up, so okay, let's go. In which non-animated movie did a grumpy recluse dress as Santa Claus and steal presents from an entire town? Gets to chatting right now because the answer is going to be a winner. Well, the first two who answer the question. So let's get that here and make sure I saw Sam, he jumped in his LinkedIn link there. So come on guys. I see some half answers here. We want the full. Remember I said the full name of it. No, not Bad Santa. I see some answers. So our community chat people in the chat will definitely identify the winners. But I want to thank you guys for participating, and BPTN team will contact you. But before I go, I want to thank Oyemi for moderating this panel. Like I said, so many different angles discussed around AI and data, so many different conversations that you can actually bring back to work and bring back into your plans for 2022. So thank you to our panel, Andre, Roshana, and Alan, and Sam. You guys rocked. You guys just brought the knowledge bombs. And of course, thank you to our partner, Integrate.ai. And of course, you guys in the chat, you guys are fire with all your questions as well. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to connect with us on social media so you can be informed of everything that's happening here at BPTN. And we will be resuming our Global Masterclass series in February of 2022. Oh my gosh, we're like a week away practically from a week and change away from 2022. I can't believe this year has just flown by. You guys, like, mind blown. Okay, so I want to say I will see you in February, but in the meantime, happy holidays to all, and to all a good night. Now back to the music.